Welcome back for part two. Here we go. Changing CSS dynamically. This is, similar. We added stuff to our web pages. What is this going to do? Well, the Jquery effect add class will add class whatever to the p tags. Now, what do I mean here? I'm just going to copy that line. I'll have to call it something else, because I've already used p. Yeah, see, there we go. It's telling me that it's already defined. So I'm going to call this class change or something like that. But right now, and notice that this will happen right away. So we won't quite be able to tell the difference, but it's going to add the class whatever to all the p tags. Right now, there is no class whatever. So we actually need to write that. Remember, classes begin with a dot, whatever, and let's just do something so we can notice it. Like we'll change the color to red. And right now the P class tags don't have anything, any style whatsoever. And so when I run this, it actually changed them. When it ran that line of code, it changed the CSS styling. Okay, great. Note that you have to have coded the class whatever in your CSS. And notice that it didn't actually change anything in my web page or my CSS document. It changed the structure of the web page dynamically, like on the go. Similarly, there are remove class and toggle class effects or actions in Jquery. We can change individuals. Okay, I'll get to that in a moment. But toggle class. So for instance, it'll have, whatever is, let's see, back in, let's add something just so I can show that this works. Now I've got a button, right? Doesn't do anything, but and then we saw this last lesson, and I'm going to have when button is clicked, and I'm going to run this function, and this function is going to have this business in it. I gotta get down here so I can actually see what I'm doing. So that's going to end this function. This will end the click, and I'm going to write that in there, end the click. And so now when I run this and I just click it, it'll change it. What's neat is the toggle class, and we saw this in the Code Academy, toggle class will add it and remove it. Add it, remove, add, remove. Cool. That's pretty cool. And remove, of course, is an add or remove depending on what's going on. We can change individual CSS styling properties. So it has the idea there. This is the target. So this was P in the last one, right? All of our paragraphs, but that can be anything. Property to fix, comma, value. So for instance, if we just wanted to change the color of the H1s, we could have that line right there. The property to fix is in quotes, and then the value is, in this case, the string is blue in quotes, but we could have the hexadecimal FFOC 1, 2, 3, those colors in there, or whatever we would like. But that'll change all of them. There are special jQuery actions for changing the height and width. So instead of CSS height 200 pixels, it actually has a special thing like this. So for instance, at the start in our JS bin thing, I could have a div here, right? I could have a div that has nothing in it. That's the end of the div. And over here, I'm going to make my div styling, let's say its background color is yellow, let's say. Maybe we should give it a little bit of a size, so its height is 50 pixels. There it is, and it's going across the entire screen. But if I want to change that on the fly, then it would be div, in quotes, because that's the HTML thing, dot height, and then its new value. So say, let me make sure I've got the syntax right, and in quotes, 200 pixels. In quotes, the new value, 200 pixels. Okay, and I'm going to run that. And then I didn't even see when it was 50. It automatically jammed it in there. What's interesting is where all this other stuff was added to the body of the web page. All this stuff, because the div already existed in the HTML, the other stuff was added after, and so it was added after the div, which sometimes might be hard to control, but I'll let you play with that. That's pretty cool. So notice that that command and this command, CSS height, comma, 200, these are identical. Those are identical lines, but there's special effects for the height and width of in jQuery. That's what that last comment, that last thing says. So that's CSS. We can also change HTML content dynamically, and we'll actually see more of this later on when we deal with graphical user interfaces in Unit 4. But here's an example that whatever the target .html whatever, it means this thing will be set to whatever. It'll actually reset that value. And we can retrieve information from HTML elements using the word val. And again, some HTML form element. Now, a form element, we haven't seen much form elements yet, but there was an example in Code Academy, and it was really cool. And here's how it goes. I'll go through this one example with you. We haven't seen HTML form elements much yet. We'll see it. That's Unit 4. After we learn about jQuery, we'll learn about that in Unit 4. But they introduced the idea in the Code Academy lesson. So they have, in the HTML, they have something that looks like this. So I'm going to put this in my HTML, in my JS bin, in the body here. Paste that. The dot, dot, dot shouldn't be there. But you can see that the form is almost like an imaginary kind of section, almost like a div, but it's saying it's a form. So this thing here consists of a form, and I've got it named whatever you want, and in my form I have one box that I can type stuff in if I would like to. It doesn't do anything because my JavaScript isn't doing anything with it, but this is the idea, is jQuery can go grab that value, and so suddenly we can get interaction with the user. And so let me go back to the note, because in the JavaScript then we can access that box because we called the input box some other name. The HTML form element is the input element. Its name was name, because on a form you might have several things: name, phone number, date of birth, all those things. But the .val will grab the value of that. So if I wanted to, I'm going to add this command into my JavaScript. That's a JavaScript command way down here. Now I don't want it to be in the button click. I'm going to put it right in here in my JavaScript. So what's the problem? What's your problem? Unclosed string. So what did I do? So the input, I forgot to put a quote on the end of my input. And notice that here, that's the name of my input box. You know, I could call it whatever I wanted to, but this has to match this. This box's name is FIRD, and then it's going to go and grab it. So I need to call it something. Input, maybe. Var input, and it's going to go grab it. So if I put hello, and where's the missing semicolon? Where's the missing semicolon? Line 17. Oh, var put input equals, right? So that's going to go get the value of the input from this box named FIRD. If I type in hello, then input is going to have the value, the val of hello. Now notice if I console log that at that point, maybe I don't want to call it input because it's confusing. So I'll call it maybe input like that. So it's a different variable name. And at this point, when I run it and I type something in there, hello, press enter, and then go to the console, right now it doesn't have any values. I guess something has to happen for it to actually go grab that. I should have put this in my button, because notice that when I first did something, it didn't have anything. If I put this line of code and cut it off and put it in my button instead, so that something actually happens to trigger this, that'll probably work better. So I'm going to put hello, and then usually there's a button there that says submit or something like that, but I'm going to do that, and then there, it actually logged hello. So that actually worked. What's left? And there's that line. This does it, by the way, that does it automatically. I used a JavaScript variable, but remember, in Code Academy, and this is a little frustrating, they don't teach you anything about JavaScript in the Jquery part. So they're embedding stuff just to get it to work. It's not that complicated. This is just a value that we grabbed, and we can use it and assign it to a variable. So, and this was pretty neat. .list .append that adds the value to an HTML element with the class .list, probably a div or something like that. So I want to show you how that worked. They kind of had you input stuff, pressed on a button, and then it would add it to a list, which was pretty cool, but not that hard, because all I'd have to do is give this maybe I'll use an ID this time, an ID, and I'm going to call it list. Then over in here, I'm going to not console.log it, but I'm going to append this. It's hashtag list. Remember, that's what an ID is, and I'm going to append my input to that. All right, so here we go. Try and run this. Made it fat on me again there, so I'm going to put hello and run, hit click me. So there, it added that. And then I'm going to put something else, goodbye. There, it added it again. Notice, weird, it's just smashing it all together. It would be nice if it added maybe a character return in there too. Just quit now. It add just quit now there. And of course, if we wanted it to add a character return, we'd have to figure out how to do that. But that's how we get that list working. That is pretty cool. Pretty cool. Is that it? Adds the value to an element. I used a ID, but list classes work as well. Remember, classes period and IDs is the hashtag. One last useful tidbit. So document on event selector function. So this is kind of, if we're waiting for something to happen, remember how I actually had to click that button. I had to click that button before it added my words, right? Remember when I first was goofing around and I changed this to hello and tried to do something, it wouldn't add it until I pressed that button, until I had this this function waiting for it to be clicked, this button waiting to be clicked. And so, well, that's not very efficient. Maybe is there an easier way to do that? Well, I can set up this on effect, and the on sets up an overall listener, and a listener for this event, whatever it happens to be. So an example is if I'm waiting for a click on a button, right? The selector was the button, then you do whatever you want to do. And this one console logs ouch to the log console log, but my example was to add the value of that input box to something. But it can be anything, right? This is just JavaScript. We could get it to be doing anything we wanted to. This would log ouch to the console, but let's see what this would do in our JavaScript. If I did this, and notice I got my console there, and so that's added a listener for every time I click on my web page, not over here, but on my web page, and I click on the button, it's going to log ouch. It should. Hang on, let me run that first. Ouch, 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 ouch. But it could be doing anything, right? I could be adding the list of the box to there instead of run that again. It's added it, but what's it? Oh, hang on, there's big mess there. Dot list append in. Oh, it doesn't know what input is because input was defined up here. That was a whoopsie. Here, I'm gonna append whoopsie. See, it didn't know what input was because that happened up here in a different function. So that's why all the mess. So I'm gonna run that now, and when I click, it's going to put ouch there and adds whoopsie to the list. Add whoopsie to the list. Okay? But you can imagine that this all sorts of things. It doesn't have to be text. It can be links. It can be pictures. It can give you quite a lot of flexibility with your web pages and hopefully a little bit of fun once we get into the homework, into the exercises. All right. That took longer than I wanted it to, but hopefully you got some ideas of what you want to try on your web pages, and the homework is next. All right, I think that's it. Is that it? Oh, there is a little bit more. Nope, that's it. That's all I have to say about that.